Peace and love, dreamers. As a lot of you know, I've been kind of going through an intense couple of hours because something that I've been working on for a while just happened. Um, this thing that just happened took me like 7 months to make happen. It was brutal sometimes because I definitely thought that I wasn't going to make it happen at a couple of points in time, and there were a lot of times where I wanted to give up too, but I felt like I just had to keep on going because sometimes you just, when you have no other options, you know what I mean, you just gotta work with what you have and see what you can make of it. And so basically all started in September when I was working at my job, and I was working outside in the yard with my friend and I guess mentor Carlos, who taught me a lot about the job that I do. And there's this old man, Jack, who is in his 70s, and he's been driving those big rigs, those big trucks for a long, long time, maybe 50 years now. And basically, I was talking with Jack about how everything that I was doing, and he pretty much told me something along the lines of, "Hey kid, you're pretty bright, and one of our drivers is about to leave, so you should, if you're interested at all, you should try learning how to drive these. I'd be willing to teach you and get you on the road with me so that you could learn." And of course, when he said that to me, I got all like fired up and was like, "This is a great idea." As this old man was planning, I like seeds in my head, right? And so I started like kind of trying to figure out everything that I was gonna do in order to make this happen because I knew that it was really going to be a difficult thing, right? Um, and so I started talking to Denise and Scott, which Scott's the owner of this business, and Denise is his wife, and she works as the receptionist. And so they're like the really two important people to kind of sway their opinions in order to make stuff happen. Um, and so I kind of started talking with them, and I noticed that like Scott was more open minded about it. He was mainly concerned, like saying stuff to me like it's a difficult job and stuff like that. Whereas Denise was more apprehensive, more like, I don't really know if I want this guy to be doing that with my company, with what's going on. Um, and so I kind of started trying really hard to make it happen, and like a ton of really bad things kind of piled up all at once, which meant that I couldn't. Well, so basically, what happened was I was learning how. The day I was supposed to get some information from Scott, I was learning more about how to forklift, and I was carrying a load across the asphalt yard into the gravel, and my forklift got stuck in the mud, and that was just like really unlucky because then Carlos came to try and help, and our manager, the guy who like kind of reports everything to Scott, Edwin, uh, noticed, and then Scott got involved, and it was kind of like really shitty because I was just learning how to forklift, but I had caused this like process to have to happen while I was in the middle of trying to get them to let me drive, and it was just like really shitty in that way, you know. Um, and then uh, I had been sick a bunch like in the month beforehand, and so I had a bunch of absences because I'd been so sick, and that kind of also made them a little apprehensive for me to be a driver because it seemed like I had a lot of mistakes and they needed their drivers to be consistent. And so they ended up, because of these two things, telling me that I should wait until a month had gone by. I'd been more consistent with my hours, and I'd been with the company longer. And so I was like really determined at this point. I decided, like I'm going to make this happen, and this is like a major goal for me. And so I waited a month, right, just like they told me, keeping perfect attendance the whole time. Um, and getting better with the forklift. And then I also got my manager Edwin to start using me more. I started out originally working and building the trusses, and then I got moved to building the floor trusses. Um, and then they moved me outside to where I was stacking and doing a lot of heavy stuff. But when Carlos taught me how to use the forklift, I started being more vocal with Edwin about how he could potentially use me here or there, and that I was willing to do whatever he wanted me to do. And so he kind of started me out doing these little small odd jobs where he'd have me, get some trash from here and move it across to the dumpster and all this tiny stuff. And then it built up to him telling me to use the forklift to move all of these pallets across the into these trailers, and to help the drivers putting the trusses onto the flatbeds in order to get shipped out. Um, and I just started becoming really useful to Edwin. And um, Scott saw that too, basically. He saw that Edwin was using me for a bunch of stuff here and there and all over the place, and then Scott started doing the same and asking me to help with this thing and that thing, and so I was getting personal time with the whole boss of everything. And that was really when things started changing, because Scott became more like genial towards me and like comfortable with me, and he started more, I think, wanting to have me as a driver. Um, and so I asked him again the second time, after he had seen more of my value to his company. I asked him about the whole driving thing again, and he basically, what he told me was that he talked with the lady who was in charge of the truck of the trucks, because he recently had his company bought, right? So he was talking with the person that was on that side, and she pretty much said that I needed to be with the company for a longer period of time before I could, before they would want me to start doing that. And so I was like, shit, you know what I mean? Like, this is happening again, and I'm getting pushed off again. But you know what? Like, I'm gonna keep believing, because it really seems like Scott's being sincere here, and I'm gonna keep But I decided to start looking for other potential options that could get me closer to what I wanted, because I was like, I'm not gonna wait around if it's just gonna be this whole, oh yes, but then and then keep pushing me off and off and off. That's like a big waste of my time. So I decided to basically there's a federal agency called Network RI, which is in Rhode Island, and it helps people get grants that let them go and get like a CDL, or get into school for all sorts of different trades. So I started communicating with them and doing all the stuff for them in order to get myself potentially approved, so that I could get a grant to go into CDL school independent of my job. Um, my old coworker had told me about this back when he only worked at the company for like a week or two before he moved on. But then on the last week of February, because he told me early spring, and I got a little excited. I was like, late winter is like basically early spring, right? And so I went in and talked with him, and I was like, hey, so what's up with that whole thing that you said to me about how we were going to be able to for me to become a driver and start working towards that? And he was like, yeah, I still want to make that happen. Let's get the whole deal worked out with your hand first, and we'll kind of proceed from there. And I was like, that sounds great. You know what? But words are just words. You know what I mean? He could say that and then come up with another reason why as to push me off later. And I was still like, didn't feel that that was like solid enough for me to feel completely good with it. And then, like, this morning, pretty much, I got a call from Network RI, and the lady, Marjorie, who's, like, been helping me alongside this other guy, Tom Basil, was, like, hey, we definitely, you're gonna get the grant. And I was like, this is perfect. I can use this And when I talked to Scott, in order to show him my initiative and to show him everything, right? And so I went to work today, like a couple hours ago, and I probably waited like half an hour or so before I just found a good time to go into Scott's office. And I said, hey, and he was like, what's up? How are you doing? And all that stuff. And I said, so I have two things to tell you. One, and then I told him about my car and how I got that back after it was taken. And he was like, that's awesome. That's wonderful. And then I said, and the second thing that I have to tell you is I applied for a grant through the state to get into CDL school, and I just got it. And he was like, oh, well, that's fantastic. And I was like, I wanted to tell you this because I want you to know that I'm ambitious and that I want us to work together. And he was like, this is perfect. Let me know when everything begins, and I will, and I'll be able to work with you so that we can accommodate your work schedule, so that you can take your classes and then come to work afterwards. And we'll be able to work with you so that you don't have to miss any class time or anything like that. And I was just like in my head screaming like, yes, what? He said yes. But on the outside, I was calm and focused and cool. And I think I said something like, beautiful. And then he kind of nodded his head at me, and I was like, all right, let's go. And then I went back to work. But yeah, never give up. Seriously, don't. Like, if you want to make something happen, then you have to make it happen. It's not gonna be like poof and it's there, you know what I mean? It's gonna be like toil and toil to make it, you know? It took me 7 months. I dedicated 7 months of my existence to making this happen. And I did, right? And the next thing that's waiting in front of me, I will get that too. However long it takes, months, years, or decades. And the thing after that, and the thing after that, until I die. Because that's the promise I make to myself every day when I wake up, right? And I know you have that in you too. I know. Thank you. And have a beautiful day.